Hey, and welcome. Romans 1:20 states, "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse." And today I want to give you three examples, three pieces of evidence from nature that show God's existence. And I taught this as a lesson plan in Sunday school once, and the link to that lesson plan is in the video description. It has a lot more of things in depth and my sources cited. Some of the illustrations I'm using today will be from The Case for a Creator by Lee Strobel, which is a book that I highly recommend. The first example that I want to share with you, one of my absolute favorites, is fine-tuning. So our universe has all of these parameters, these forces, and different measurements and things that, if they were not as precise as they are, would make life impossible in the universe. It just wouldn't be a possibility at all. So some of those things would be like the strong nuclear force, gravity, electromagnetism, the weak nuclear force, the distance between the sun and the moon, the distance between the moon and the earth and the sun and the earth. There are like 30 parameters. And all of these are so precise. One of them is called the Cosmological Constant. And it is so precise that it would be like getting it set right would be like trying to throw a dart at Earth from space and hit a bullseye on Earth that is smaller than an atom. Pretty impossible. And yet all of these different parameters are set perfectly so that life is possible. And it would be like we go to Mars and we find a dome, and in it is a control panel, and there are all of these dials, and we see that the oxygen, the ratio is perfect, the temperature is 70 degrees, the humidity is 50%. There's a system to replenish the air, a system to take care of waste, a system to produce food, all of these things. And if any of these dials were adjusted, they have such a huge range of possibilities that they could be anything. But they're all set perfectly right so that the environment will support life. That's what it is like with our Earth. And if we went to Mars and saw that, we would conclude that there was other life out there, that there was intelligence out there, that somebody had designed that dome. And the same is true with our universe and our Earth. God has designed it perfectly right for life. Life is not an accident. Life is actually unusual, and it's very difficult to support. The second example is DNA. It's information that's stored in your body, and it's like a 4-letter code. And there are 3 billion of these different base pairs that are all together. And if you printed a list of these 3 billion base pairs out, like printing out computer code, it would be a stack of computer paper so high that it would be as tall as the Washington Monument, which is 555 feet. That's really tall. All this information. And in our experience, where does information come from? Let's say we're going to go hiking in the woods, and we come across some sticks, and they're laid out to spell Emma. And I say to you, over billions and billions of years, these sticks fell out of the trees, and they just randomly aligned and happened to spell that. There's no such person as Emma. It wasn't by intelligence. You'd think I'm ridiculous, because from our experience, we know that if there's information, it has come from an intelligent source, an intelligent being. And the same is true with the information in your body. It has been put there by an intelligent being who knew how to make you and how to tell your body what proteins to build and all of those things. Information comes from intelligence. The third really cool piece of evidence that I love is the bacterial flagellum. it looks like this. And it's the motor in bacteria that helps propel the cells and makes them move around. And it has been labeled as the most efficient machine in the universe because it can do 100,000 revolutions per minute. The most efficient car, the best car, it can do 10,600 revolutions per minute. That's man's record. God's record is 10 times better than that because he designed it. And he's a lot smarter than you and I are. And yet, this motor, it can stop on a dime and it can reverse the other way and everything. It's super complex. And you would never say that a car's motor just developed by random chance. But this motor is 10 times better. And some people will say that it developed by random chance, but it didn't. It came from a designer. All right, so we have fine-tuning. Information comes from intelligence, your DNA. And design comes from a designer, the bacterial flagellum. And there's lots of other examples of that. So God exists. And he can be seen from what he has he has made, and people are without an excuse. I want to do a 3-part apologetic series. So this is the first part, that God exists, and next week we're going to talk about how we can know that the Bible is true. And if you want to come back next week and hear why the Bible is true, then subscribe to KBC's YouTube channel and you'll get notified when that video comes out. And until then, if you have heard any arguments or evidences about God that you really think are cool, go ahead and share them in the comments with people. And until then, I will see you next week when we'll be talking about why the Bible is true.